Hello everyone, it is Nina, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing my recap of a recent Joe Dispenza Advanced Follow-Up Retreat. So for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Nina Elise and I am a human design specialist and a conscious growth coach and a breathwork facilitator. And I have been doing Joe Dispenza meditations for about 2 to 2.5 years now. And I have been using his meditations to manifest different things in my life, to shift and change who I am as a person, and to really peel back layers that were preventing me from really stepping into my wholeness. So today's video, I'm going to give you a recap of my experience at the Advanced Follow-Up and what has happened in the past 5 months or so after I went to my first week-long event. So this is the first Advanced Follow-Up retreat that I have gone to, and it was the San Diego retreat that was in, I believe, March of 2024, and it was a 4-day event, and it followed the typical format of his 4-day retreats, where you're doing a walking meditation every single morning, and you're doing the 1 or 2 meditations in the morning and the afternoon, and then you're doing the coherence healings at the end of the day. So this was definitely very, very different than the week-long advanced retreat that I went to. And it's because there's less lecture. These retreats are for like the advanced meditators or people who have been doing Joe's work and really understand how to drop into the meditations. And so since it's only 4 days, it goes by super, super quick. And for this specific retreat, I was told, oh yeah, you're gonna do the pineal gland meditation, you're gonna do the 6-hour meditation, and I was really, really looking forward to that. However, for some reason, we didn't do it at this retreat, and maybe that's something that they recently changed. However, my takeaways from this event is that the advanced follow-ups are mostly for Joe to experiment new meditations on his advanced meditators. And so that was really different for me. I didn't really know what to expect going into this retreat. I didn't really prepare for it. I had my intentions going into it, but I wasn't meditating as much beforehand, maybe a few times a week. And I was very intentional about that. I wanted to see what my experience would be like if I wasn't so immersed in the actual work and the meditations beforehand. And so when I went to the retreat, it was, we would do maybe one walking meditation that I was familiar with before, and then we would do 1 or 2 meditations that were new to me. And so I found that was a little bit more difficult for me to drop into those meditations because they were new for me. I didn't have like these huge grand mystical experiences like I did in the week long, which is totally fine. A lot of the messages that I got during the Advanced Follow-Up retreat is that you don't have to have big mystical experiences in order for things to be shifting or changing for you. I did have mystical experiences. It just wasn't, since it was 4 days, it was very short. It went by super, super quickly. And I think once you really get into his work and you start having mystical experiences, I think when you do have them, you don't label them as mystical experiences because they become like the norm for you. However, the messages, like I said, that I was getting was very much like, okay, all these other people are having these big releases and these big experiences, and I was like, why am I not having these? And I'm really going into the meditations and nothing's really like happening. And so I was kind of bummed about that, but at the end of the retreat, it was very much like, okay, my body needs to rest. I had just gotten out of a 4-day somatic breathwork training event, and that was really, really intense on my body. And on me physically and mentally and emotionally. And so I definitely did not feel 100% going into the retreat. However, the message that I got was like, just relax and surrender more deeply into this, because there are things that are shifting and changing under the surface. All of these meditations that you are doing, you don't have to have this grand experience for every single meditation that you have. And there are things that are happening on a cellular level, so many deeper levels that you can't even see. And so just showing up and doing the meditation, it's compounding, and so not all is lost when you're doing those meditations. And so in comparison to the week-long event, for me, it wasn't enough time to really like drop in and get lost into the meditations and to the actual retreat. So for that reason, I'm definitely going to go back to another week-long event at some point and really soak that in and go a little bit deeper into my meditations. I appreciate the week-longs because there's way more lecture, and it may seem like basic, but I feel like you pick things up and you learn them in a different way the more that you repeat it over and over again. And as you are doing the meditations, your level of consciousness shifts and changes and expands. And so the information that you're taking in is it's going to be different. You're going to catch on to things that you didn't catch on to before. And so while I appreciated the advanced follow-up, we still had, scientists coming up and sharing what's been going on in their research and their studies that they're doing, which I'm sure they will release at some point, and loved all of that. But again, it's just a more condensed version of the week long. And so I feel like it's a really great reset for anyone who's feeling like in a little bit of a funk. And I personally liked doing it about 5 months after attending the week long, because it was kind of like this little jump start. And I don't think it's like necessary to go to like a ton of retreats every single year. I think it's going to be different for every single person and when you feel called to go to them. However, for me, the 5 months was great. I probably could have waited a little bit longer, honestly, but it was very helpful to go back to this retreat after 5 months of being at the week long, because as most of you know, when you go to his retreats, you have that post-retreat glow up, and I definitely experienced that after the advanced follow-up. And so what has happened following the advanced follow-up is that I went through a death and a rebirth at the retreat, having a mystical experience there. And just when those typically happen for me, there's less of an attachment of like, what does this mean? Who am I now? Like, it's more of like, I just go live my life and I'm like, oh, I do that differently. Or, oh, I have these ideas and I feel more expansive or whatever. And things start to shift and rearrange in my external reality. And so, again, it's like less about the how or like what things are shifting or changing. You just know that you're different, and it's more in alignment to your intentions or your goals or whatever you're trying to manifest. So for me, like going to his retreats is like your timeline jumping on like a more extreme level versus like if you were to do it alone at your own home, because you have that collective energy at the retreats that really help you make these big quantum leaps. And that has been my personal experience working or doing his work and going to the retreats. And lastly, my intention going into this retreat, like I said, it was different than the week-long retreat, and I wasn't doing 2 or 3 hours of meditation a day. I wasn't listening to 1 or 2 hours of his lectures every single day in his online course. So I was way less, there was way less preparation going into the advanced follow-up, and maybe that's why I didn't go as deep, because I wasn't like constantly immersing myself in his work and his meditations. However, I was doing a couple of meditations every single week and that walking meditation once every week or two. And I felt like that was perfect for me for where I was at, what I had going on, and intuitively felt the best for me. So with all of that being said, that was my experience with the advanced follow-up retreat, and I'm sure there's like so much more that I could share. This is like the 3rd time I've recorded this video, and I was not happy with the first 2. So I know this is a little bit shorter, but the week-long is obviously longer. There are a lot more things that happened during that time period. This is my first advanced follow-up, and it's shorter. There's way less to explain because it's for more of like the advanced meditators, where Joe is, experimenting and playing with new meditations and things that he's playing with. And so he's trying them on people who can really drop into those meditations and give them a try and then seeing what happens. And so for me, it was more like an experiential thing that was benefiting Joe and then anyone else who's going to be potentially doing these meditations that he's practicing on us for the future. And we did do the changing boxes walking meditation, which I absolutely loved. I'm so excited for that to come out and for other people to experience it, because I do the changing boxes meditation like 2 or 3 times a week. It's one of my favorite meditations where I've seen the most shifts and changes in my reality. And it's so simple. There's the 15-minute one, and then I believe there's the 50-minute one as well. And so, yeah, that was my experience with the advanced follow-up, and I'm sure I will go to more retreats in the future, but for now, this was just kind of a recap of the event and what I have noticed since the event and how I actually plan for it, obviously setting my intentions for it and having those things play out during the event and then playing out after as I am shifting and changing. And I'm sure there's so many more shifts and changes coming my way, and the way that I show up in my reality and how things are shifting and changing for myself as well. So I'm sure I will do more videos later down the road, and if I go to more retreats, which I'm sure that I most definitely will. So with all of that being said, I'm curious what your experience has been at an advanced follow-up, if you have been to one, and if not, what are your intentions going to those retreats and what you are hoping to get out of it. I know that a lot has changed since I have gone to his week-long and then going to the advanced follow-up, and the way that I approach the meditations, where I go into the meditations from a place of just wanting to amplify the love and the gratitude and that wholeness within myself that I already feel, versus that neediness of needing to heal or fix or change myself. And so it's coming from a much different place, and so I feel like shifts happen much faster coming from that place. So I'm really curious to see how things have shifted and changed for you in doing his meditations, and what your experiences have been at his retreats. So leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. I will see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.